Hello everyone, welcome back. So today, as you may have guessed by the title, we are going to be discussing silicon. It is quickly becoming one of my favorite elements, and that's because it is very abundant. It is practically everywhere. If you see sand, there's quite likely some silicon in there. In fact, more often than not, there is silicon in there. Thing is, it is silicon dioxide. It is not free elemental silicon. So, before I get into that, here are some chemical facts about silicon. Atomic number of silicon is 14. It is right below carbon and right above germanium in the periodic table of elements. It's also right next to aluminum, which I find kind of interesting, and on the other side is phosphorus. According to the sort of diagonal relationship, it actually acts a little bit more like boron than it does carbon in some cases. So it's actually kind of interesting. That happens with two of the groups, or two of the lines at the top of the periodic table. A lot of them tend to have diagonal relationships, one up here to one down here. So it's actually pretty cool. It's something that I learned just sort of, here and there. It has a melting temperature of 2,577 degrees Fahrenheit, so comparable to iron or steel or something like that. It is less dense than aluminum in its solid form. In its liquid form, it's actually technically more dense from what I can tell. So that's actually it's actually pretty neat. But anyway. It is commonly used as a semiconductor, though I do not intend on using silicon as a semiconductor in the near future, especially since I can't get it nearly that pure or that precise of, doping it with whatever. But it is commonly used as a semiconductor. It can be reduced with aluminum, from what I have been able to tell, although usually sulfur is used. Yeah, we'll see. Anyway, unlike most of what I work with, silicon is considered a semimetal or a metalloid, which is pretty much, well, like a metal, but not necessarily a metal. In the case of silicon, in certain respects it does act like a metal, in other respects it doesn't. So they kind of put it in that sort of category of, well, it isn't necessarily a metal, but it can be under certain conditions, which I find to be very interesting. Most of what I work with is just straight up metal. Copper, iron, aluminum, stuff like that. But silicon, on the other hand, is weird. It doesn't fit into that. And so I intend on messing around with it if I can. If I can't reduce it myself, I will find silicon online and get it. Or I might just reduce it the way that it was intended to be reduced, with sulfur and aluminum. But anyway, it does have a very high affinity for oxygen, so it is difficult to reduce. I mean, people didn't reduce it until quite late in human history, as in pretty much within the 18 or 1900s. So it's rather difficult to do. As I mentioned before, there's no real elemental silicon in nature. At least if there is, it's really hard to find because nobody's found it yet. But another really cool thing about silicon is that it can also act as a ceramic when it is combined with carbon. Silicon carbide, which is 1 part silicon, 1 part carbon, is used as ceramic. And this ceramic is actually used in bullet-resistant shock plates. So pretty much bulletproof armor, they actually have ceramic. You hear about the Kevlar and everything, but this is kind of one of those alternatives where it will absorb the bullet impact as far as the shock is concerned, because it'll shatter. It won't bend, it'll shatter, just like you'd expect a ceramic to. So you can guess I will not be forging any silicon carbide in the near future. It would be a rather bad idea. Alright, so something interesting also that I found out is that silicon is somewhat vital to the human body, though it's actually kind of difficult to gauge how vital, because It's so common, nobody's ever been found to be silicon deficient. It's really weird. I was trying to look up the toxicity of it, and it seems to be pretty much on the opposite end as, say, cadmium. Cadmium is highly toxic. Silicon, on the other hand, the worst it can really be is an irritant as far as the skin is concerned. Now, silica crystals, that can cause some serious damage. Crystalline silica dust has been known to cause a whole lot of issues, especially for the lungs. I believe that actually is part of asbestos, so you know the story there. But anyway, what I intend to do with silicon is I intend to explore more of the physical properties of it, to see, would it make a good hammer? Would it make a good knife? Would it make a good sword? We will see. And also, how easy is it for me to reduce at home? Might be a little bit more challenging than I expected after doing a little bit of research on it. So, I also intend, as you've heard, on reducing this nice little piece of quartz here. I have a bunch of other little pieces of quartz here that I also plan on reducing and turning into elemental silicon just for fun. So that's pretty much that. So with that, thank you guys for joining me. I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have a wonderful day.